In the realms of ancient civilization, masturbation was more than just a private act of self-pleasure. It was a practice woven into the fabric of society, carrying cultural significance and bearing profound implications on an individual's social standing. Let's delve into the corridors of time, exploring the lands of ancient Egypt. Here, masturbation was not shrouded in shame or secrecy. Rather, it was linked with the divine, viewed as a creative force. The ancient Egyptians believed the god Atum created the universe through an act of self-pleasure, thus bestowing a sacred status upon the act. Now, let's journey to ancient Greece, where we find a different perspective. While the Greeks didn't attach a divine status to masturbation, they didn't shun the practice either. Philosophers like Diogenes openly endorsed it, arguing for its naturalness and harmlessness. However, it was often portrayed with a measure of humor in Greek literature, indicating perhaps a slightly less reverential attitude. Moving on to ancient Rome, we see an even more complex picture. Roman society had a dualistic approach toward masturbation. On one hand, it was a common theme in Roman art and literature. On the other, it was also subject to criticism and was sometimes associated with weakness or lack of self-control. In these societies, masturbation wasn't merely an act of self-gratification. It was a prism through which these cultures explored themes of life, creation, power, and even humor. The societal norms and cultural connotations associated with the practice varied greatly, reflecting the diversity of human experiences and beliefs. Contrary to what some might believe, these ancient societies had a sophisticated understanding of sexual health and pleasure. The act of self-pleasure was integrated into their cultural narratives, shaping their views on sexuality, power, and the human body. As we continue our exploration, we'll uncover more about how these perspectives have shaped our understanding of self-pleasure throughout the ages. From rituals to myths, masturbation held a significant place in the cultural fabric of these ancient societies. In the land of the pharaohs, ancient Egypt, masturbation was seen as a creative and life-giving act. The mythology tells of Atum, the god of creation, who brought forth the universe through an act of self-pleasure. This story not only demonstrates the cultural significance of masturbation, but also its symbolic ties to creation and vitality. Across the Mediterranean in ancient Greece, masturbation was seen through a different lens. The Greeks had a more pragmatic approach, viewing it as a normal and healthy act for those without a sexual partner. The philosopher Diogenes, famous for his frankness, is said to have masturbated in public, arguing that if it were as easy to banish hunger by rubbing the belly, we would all be better off. In the Roman Empire, attitudes towards masturbation varied widely. The elite Romans often looked down upon it, considering it an act of the lower classes or slaves. However, this didn't stop the practice from being common, as it was often depicted in the graffiti found in the ruins of Pompeii. In many of these societies, masturbation also played a role in various rituals and ceremonies. For instance, in ancient Egypt, pharaohs were known to ceremonially masturbate into the Nile as a ritual of fertility, hoping to bless the country's crops. Other cultures developed myths and superstitions around masturbation. In some tribal societies of the Pacific Islands, it was believed that semen was a finite resource and excessive masturbation could lead to a man's weakness or even death. These cultural rituals, myths, and beliefs, diverse as they are, indicate a deep understanding and acceptance of self-pleasure in these ancient societies. They reveal a world where masturbation was not only acknowledged, but also integrated into the fabric of their cultural and religious lives. These rituals and beliefs reveal a society that embraced sexual pleasure in its various forms. Beyond the private sphere, masturbation was integrated into the very social fabric of these societies. In ancient Rome, for example, it was not uncommon to find phallic symbols adorning homes and public spaces, symbolizing fertility and sexual prowess. Similarly, in ancient Egypt, masturbation was believed to have divine connotations. It was said that the god Atum created the universe through an act of self-pleasure, imbuing masturbation with a sense of creative power. In the indigenous tribes of Papua New Guinea, boys were encouraged to engage in masturbation as a rite of passage into adulthood. In many of these societies, these practices were not shrouded in shame or guilt, but rather celebrated as natural and necessary aspects of human sexuality. These historical accounts reveal a time when self-pleasure was not only accepted but also celebrated, integrated into religious rites, social customs, and everyday life. The openness with which these societies approached masturbation is a stark contrast to some modern attitudes. Art, the mirror of society, didn't shy away from depicting the act of self-pleasure. It served as a candid medium, reflecting the prevailing attitudes toward masturbation in the ancient world. From the sun-drenched lands of Egypt, we find the Turin erotic papyrus, a masterfully crafted document that unabashedly showcases various sexual acts, including self-pleasure. In fact, ancient Egyptians held a belief that the god Atum created the universe through an act of self-induced pleasure, thus bestowing a divine legitimacy to masturbation. In the classical realm of Greece, pottery was a prominent canvas for expressing societal norms. Many such vessels depict scenes of both men and women engaging in self-pleasure, indicating a level of acceptance and openness about the act. It's notable that these depictions were not hidden away, but were part of everyday objects, signifying the normalization of masturbation. Moving west to Rome, we encounter explicit frescoes in the private quarters of Pompeii and Herculaneum. These erotic artworks, preserved under layers of volcanic ash, reveal a society unafraid to explore and express sexual freedom, including the act of self-pleasure. Even in the Far East, the temples of Khajuraho in India are adorned with intricate sculptures that celebrate all facets of human sexuality, including masturbation. These architectural marvels stand as a testament to the acceptance of sexual pleasure in ancient Indian society. Each of these artistic expressions, from papyrus to pottery, from frescoes to stone carvings, served not only as a reflection of society's views, but also as a means to educate and normalize. They showcase societies where self-pleasure was not viewed with guilt or shame, but embraced as a natural and integral part of human sexuality. It's fascinating to ponder how these ancient societies, separated by geography and time, arrived at similar conclusions about the act of self-pleasure. They used their art, the most enduring form of communication, to normalize and celebrate what many modern societies often stigmatize. These artistic renditions serve as a testament to the acceptance and normalization of masturbation in these societies. They remind us that our attitudes towards sexuality and self-pleasure are not fixed, but evolve, shaped by culture, knowledge, and time. Journey back in time as we uncover the hidden narratives of self-pleasure in the ancient world. Today, we unveil the practices and perceptions of masturbation in Antiquity. While some similarities exist, the practices and attitudes towards masturbation varied across these ancient civilizations. Let's draw some comparisons, focusing on Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Ancient Egyptians held a rather positive view of masturbation. They believed it had a creative power, with myths suggesting that the god Atum created the universe through an act of self-pleasure. This belief was deeply ingrained in their culture, and masturbation was seen as an act of self-love and regeneration. On the other hand, in ancient Greece, the attitude towards masturbation was more complex. Many Greeks believed that moderation was key in all aspects of life, including sexual activities. So, while self-pleasure was not explicitly condemned, overindulgence was seen as a sign of weakness and lack of self-control. The Romans, much like the Greeks, didn't condemn masturbation, but they didn't celebrate it either. It was a part of life, mostly private, but sometimes used in a derogatory context in literature and arts. Often, it was seen as an act of last resort, an alternative when other forms of sexual activities were not available. These attitudes may seem vastly different, but they share a common thread: the recognition of masturbation as a natural part of the human experience. The differences, however, highlight the cultural context that shaped these attitudes. In Egypt, the act was tied to creation and life, reflecting their reverence for the natural world. In Greece and Rome, it was viewed through a moral lens, reflecting societal values of moderation and self-control. These comparisons reveal a fascinating diversity in the understanding and practice of self-pleasure. As we delve into the practices of these ancient societies, we see a myriad of beliefs and attitudes, each shaped by their unique cultural and historical contexts. This rich tapestry of perspectives challenges us to think about how our own cultural context shapes our views on such topics. As we bridge the millennia, the echoes of antiquity continue to shape our understanding of sexuality, pleasure, and self-expression. Drawing the threads from antiquity to the present, we find that our understanding of masturbation has evolved, yet some echoes remain. As we've journeyed through the annals of history, we've seen that practices and beliefs surrounding self-pleasure were as diverse as the civilizations themselves. These ancient societies were often more open, integrating masturbation into their cultural, social, and even religious fabric. Comparatively, today's perceptions are a complex tapestry, woven from threads of scientific understanding, societal norms, and personal beliefs. In many ways, we've come far. The stigmas that once shrouded masturbation have largely been replaced by a more enlightened view, recognizing it as a natural part of human sexuality. Yet the discourse is still evolving, and societal attitudes continue to fluctuate. As we continue to explore and understand our sexuality, the narratives of our ancestors provide a compelling backdrop to our ongoing journey.